Okay, so today we are back with another video on the Miata. And in the last video, we cleaned it for the first time in a couple years. This video, we're going to try to get it running and driving again. Now I have a feeling this is going to be a more in-depth video than the last one, because I feel like we're going to have a couple of surprises. Now last night I took the battery out and put it on the charger, so we should be ready to start this car as soon as we put the battery back in. Now before you start a car in a while, there's a couple things you want to do first. First of all, you want to check and see how much oil is in the motor. And if there's not enough, you fill it up with oil. Second of all, you want to crank the motor by hand a little bit so the oil gets circulated inside the motor before it fires and, well, kills itself. Now in this case, we can't really check the oil. Funny enough, the Miata actually came with 3 different dipsticks, but none of them are the right one. So we're cooked. Since we don't know how much oil is actually in the car, there's only really one sensible thing to do. And that's, well, drain how much is in there and put in some new oil. So I went and bought this jug of 5W30 oil, and we're gonna know exactly how much we put in the car after we drain the oil. So we'll know exactly how much oil is in the car and we'll be ready to start it. So let's get to draining the oil. So of course, the first thing that we have to do is jack up this car so we can actually get to the oil pan. Make sure you've got a brake underneath the tires before you jack this up. It might roll down the hill. Okay, so now that we got the car jacked up, I'm actually gonna take my sweatshirt off because it's my night sweatshirt. Yeah, that's what's stupid. Alright, so now it's time to play the game What's in My Oil Pan, which frankly is my favorite game to play when buying an abandoned car. Now let's see what we got. Oh, wow. Well, that's actually not too bad. I was kind of expecting a lot less oil in this situation. Now, truthfully, I didn't need to drain the oil, but we did it anyways, and there's new oil in it now, so it's a win-win, I guess. So now that we have all the oil out and the bolt is put back in, we're ready to fill it up with oil. Now, the recommended amount of oil to put in this car is a little under 4 quarts. So we have a measurement here, and we're going to put it until we have a little bit over 1 quart of oil left, and that should be good. Alright, so we put about 3.5 quarts of oil in this car. So now we're going to crank the engine over by hand to get it turned around in the car, and then we're going to start it. And while I'm at it, I'm going to order a new dipstick on eBay. To crank this engine over by hand, there's actually a crankshaft pulley down there, and there's a bolt on it, and you can use that bolt to crank it over. Now it's in a really tight space, and we're running out of daylight, so I'm not going to record it. But right down here on the crankshaft pulley, that's how you crank this engine over. Let's get some gas in it and try to start it. All right, now I'm gonna throw some of this gas in here. I'm probably gonna do a gallon or two, not too much. And that should be enough for it to run. Oh, come on. These California gas tanks leak out of every possible point a gas tank can leak from. Oh gosh, dang. That was really, really bad. I spilled gas absolutely everywhere. I need to clean that up. Alright, so instead of waiting for this battery to charge, I actually decided that I am going to put a different battery in from a different car because I'm impatient. So we're going to get that done before it becomes dark so we could actually get some work done on this car. So we got our tiny little battery. This thing's been charging all night. Let's see if it has enough juice to turn this motor over. And if it doesn't, we're going to have to throw in a different battery. Apparently I changed my mind because, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm pretty sure I just said I was going to throw in a different battery from the get-go. But who knows, you know? Alright, so now that the battery's in, it's time to start the car. But unfortunately I had my mic plugged in when I was recording this, and it did some weird stuff with the audio, but you get the point. Oh yeah! Woo! Man, it started. Something is squeaking. It's a pretty obnoxious noise. Ah, it's not squeaking anymore. Now I have to admit, that was the easiest I've ever gotten a car running, ever. So it's looking pretty good so far.
Alright, well it's running, but it's getting dark, so I'll come back tomorrow.
Alright, so now that the car's running, we could try to put it in gear and drive it. So we put it into first gear and try to drive forward. My foot's completely off the clutch. Same thing with every single gear that we have. So the clutch is completely shot. So we have a clutch on order and it should be here by this afternoon. So we have to prepare this car for a new clutch. So we have to drop the transmission first. So the first thing we need to do to drop this transmission is get rid of the center console. So you have 2 bolts on each side, 2 bolts inside of this compartment, and 1 bolt hidden underneath this cup holder. So let's get to working on that. So this is the only panel in the interior that you actually have to remove to get to the transmission. We have to get underneath the shift knob in order to pull the transmission out. Another thing that you have to take off is this shift knob. You got to get that off first before you can get the boot off. Luckily, it just spins right off of there. So next we need to get this smaller boot off, which takes 4 10mm bolts. Usually this is more intact, but you slide this plastic piece off, and that allows you to pull this boot off. Alright, so now that all the work in the interior is done, we are ready to go underneath the car and start dropping the transmission. Alright, so the next thing that we have to do is take this exhaust off, going all the way to the back. There should be 2 bolts up here, and then hangers the rest of the way, and we should be able to just drop it down. Alright, so we have our exhaust dropped out of the car. The next thing that we need to do is take these 4 bolts off of the drive shaft, and once those 4 bolts are out, we can just pull it straight out of here. Alright. Oh, shoot. So now it's time to drain the fluid in the transmission, because if there is fluid in the transmission, when you open the transmission, it comes out everywhere. So it's always a good idea to drain the fluid first. Alright, a quick little update here. We have this bar dropped down, and that's ready for the transmission to come down. But next off, we have to take this tube off, this exhaust pipe off, so we can get to the bolts on the transmission. Alright, so now we have the lower bolts on the transmission taken off. We still have the top ones to do, and then we should be able to pull the transmission. Alright, so now that we have the transmission out, we can move on to taking the clutch off. So we have these bolts down here that we're going to take off, and that should allow us to take the clutch off. The motor is going to spin if you twist these off with a regular ratchet, so you could use an impact, or you could put another bolt in here and pry a screwdriver in between that bolt and the teeth, and that will stop it from turning. So here are the old and new parts that we have. These 2 pieces came out of our car. You can see all the scoring on this. This is no longer a good piece. And this clutch completely down to the metal, so it didn't have any life left in it. This flywheel is also the original flywheel, but we went and got it resurfaced. The scoring on it was about as bad as this. And then here we have our new clutch cover. This came in a kit along with our clutch pressure plate. Now, before we get to put these in, you should always replace your rear main seal when you have the chance. So I have a new rear main seal that I'm going to put in this car. Because to replace a rear main seal, you have to take the whole transmission and clutch off anyways, so you might as well do it when the car is out. It's like a $15 piece. So this is the rear main seal. Sometimes they're pretty difficult to get out, but what I did is I threaded a screw into the rear main seal, and you just kind of pry that screw with a screwdriver or something, or needle nose pliers, and you can pull it right out. And then to put it back in, you just put it in the hole and then tap it in with a hammer or something. And then this is it completely in, all fresh and nice looking. I don't know. Alright, so now that the rear main seal is in, it's time to start putting our stuff back together. So this is our throwout bearing. It's what actually actuates on the clutch and presses it and tells it to engage and disengage. And it's also a pretty cheap piece, and you should always replace it when you have the transmission off, because you might as well, because it's a really big job to replace when the transmission isn't already on. Alright, so now that we have the transmission in, we basically just start putting it back together. Alright, so now we have our two bottles of MT90 and MT85. I only got different ones because they didn't have two of the MT90. And somehow we have to get Tim to go into that hole right there. Now a lot of people use little hand pumps to try and pump it up in there, but I don't have one of those, so I'm going to try to run a hose through here all the way up through where the shifter comes through and put it in through the interior. Alright, so I have a hole drilled in the slid with a big rubber tube going through it, and this should screw onto the oil cap, and I should be able to squeeze it to get it inside of the transmission. Alright, so here's the setup. We got this leading into a tube down here, coming underneath the car, comes out right down there, goes up, and into the transmission. Alright, so now all we have left to do is to get this center console in, and we're good to go. And last but not least, the cherry on top. Now let's get this car out of the driveway. Alright, so first impressions, the car drove really well. I think it has some power steering issues, and the shocks are pretty much gone. But other than that, it drove pretty nicely. I need to get some new tires on this car before you can drive it. There's a couple other small issues that we need to fix, but we'll be addressing those in the next video. I've got big plans for this car, so you're just gonna have to stick around and figure out what those plans are. And thanks for watching. I really hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you next time.